All right, there we go, folks. Just seeing if we can get your attention. These are the little, I guess, figurines from our book. But first of all, folks, I'm Bryce Holdaway. He is Ben Kingsley. And, of course, what we were doing there is sort of modelling the front cover of our book there. But, hey, what we thought we'd do today is actually talk about some frameworks, and which is not unusual. We've done that before. And, in fact, some of the frameworks that we're going to cover, we have covered before. But here's the deal. What we want to do is show you how our frameworks actually work together. Because in isolation, sure, they make sense and you can master them and get an understanding. But understanding the 30,000 foot view of how they all work together is something that we want to do today. And just to show you how authentic we are, I was writing the title here, and yes, I cannot spell.
Frameworks.
Yes. Frameworks works together. So,
works together.
Is that a good plan, Ben?
I love it. I love plural, not singular.
Plural.
That's how I've got a co-host.
Now, now, folks, I want you to stick around right to the end because I'm going to show you how you can get access to this, which has got all the frameworks in all the detail, plus the ones that we won't actually get to today. So stick around to the end. I'm going to show you how to get that, Ben. But first of all, the first one that we want to go through is essentially the 5-step process that you and I came up with, which shows you that property investing is a process, not an event. And that's important to understand because quite often people who want to invest in a property, the first thing they do, Ben, is they go online and they bring up a series of properties and then they go out and start inspecting.
Try shopping.
Whereas the important part is to realise that there is a process, step-by-step process. And if you want any sort of, I guess you could say it this way, Ben. For any person who has achieved success with property investing, set themselves up for a passive income, they would not have started at step 4.
Unlikely.
They would have,
highly unlikely.
Early days they might have realised they were cutting their teeth, but the lessons along the way.
If they didn't want to make any mistakes, they would have followed a clear framework.
Exactly. So,
process.
all right. So let's fill in some details here. So this is step number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, Ben,
ready?
What I want you to
write it
do?
down.
You want me to do it, or you?
Yeah, no, you're better at it. Clarify, evaluate, plan, implement, and manage.
Oh, I like it. So you've got clarify.
Yes.
You've got plan.
Yeah, his writing's better than mine.
No. See, this is to show how... See, you said it so fast, Ben.
Sorry.
This is to show how authentic we're being.
Yeah.
Plan.
Implement.
Thank you for that.
There we go.
Implement.
It's hard to sort of think on 2 different levels. You're writing whilst you're talking, right?
Well, it takes there's a unique amount of an intellectual horsepower to be able to speak and write at the same time.
And stand next to me, right? I bring the intellectual horsepower down. All right, so I like this. And so what we're trying to also explain is what bits spin off this in terms of how do you know where things work and how our frameworks. I mean, look at this stuff. I mean, we've got Rule of 25, we've got the 4 foundation, all of this stuff here. Looking at this sort of great stuff here, you can see what's going on. So, Ivis, can you take the top shot from that? Are we seeing?
She already is on the top shot.
Oh, even better.
But we're going to cover that off then. So, what we're going to do here is this here, Ben.
Correct.
Is actually a spin-off of clarifying.
Yes.
So, if this is the broader strategy that we need to implement the 5 steps within clarify, really the clarifying and the evaluating phase, so if we do one of these, really comes down to this. So can you tell us what this framework is, Ben, in terms of the 4 foundational levers?
So to build wealth, you need to understand money management. And to understand money management, you need to see money in, money out. But when you're wealth creating, you basically need to see what's going on in terms of future planning. So the first one we're talking about is income. Then we're talking about expenses. And then we're talking about time. And then we're talking about target. So effectively, once we know the income that we've got coming in and then our commitments or expenditure, we get a surplus. And it's that surplus that we put to work and we invest. And we invest over time and we basically set ourselves a target. So that's part of evaluating that, and then we move there's a dotted line for target into the planning piece here. So from our point of view, we're saying to people, look, how much time have you got? Because if you've got a long period of time, your probability of hitting your targets are higher. If your targets are shorter, you might have to be a little bit more aggressive in regards to investing. But as people who are conservative and don't like to teach aggressive investing, we say start early, get your income organised, get your expenditure under control, and then you can start to push that time in and then hit the targets.
Why is this important too, Ben? Is because it's sort of demonstrates the fact that there's no one size fits all. Because if you think about someone who's on you're on a higher income than me, or your expenses in your household are actually less than mine, or you're 4 years older than me, so I've got 4 years up my sleeve, or the fact that I'm pretty humble on what I need, you're pretty extravagant, or vice versa. So
very extravagant.
It allows us to really move those levers in a way that gives us a unique target, Ben.
Correct.
So if we've got a unique target, it's not that one size fits all.
It never is. It is always should be tailored. These 4 levers are just about how you need to be thinking about your money. So that is a good starting point in terms of that. The same sort of thing in terms of some idea around how much money you're going to need, right? So, which is a nice little segue into our rule of 25. So we use a rule of 25, which is a simple way in which you can sort of say, how much money am I going to need to allow us to get to an income level? And you reverse engineer that in terms of the passive income that you need. So that's another one of our frameworks which you'll find in our guide.
Which we'll show you how to get access to shortly. But the rule of 25 really helps people understand how much do I actually need? And there's a framework around do you know your number, which is part of that. But if you roughly know that you want $50,000 passive income, you multiply it by 25 and you'll get the 1.25 million, Ben. Or if you want 100,000, you multiply it by 25 and you need 2.5 million. So that essentially means outside of the family home, I need $2.5 million worth of income producing assets at returning me 4%. So that I can get that passive income. Now there are some assumptions there. We're not sort of taking into account expenses.
It's a rough rule.
It's a rough
good starting point.
It's a very good starting point. So that when we're going into this clarify section, if we understand what that means, we can then move forward as we go along. So we've done clarify. There's parts of evaluate that move into there, Ben. When we go through this implementation phase here, it actually really does cover the whole spectrum of this. There's 4 ways that an investor will pay. All right, so I'm just trying to mix up the colours here, Ben. It's really.
I think red's good. I think that's good. You probably need red on your target too, just to sort of. I was looking at that. I thought that's exactly what I need. Beautiful. Okay, proceed.
I like the high level way that we're pitching this. So the first, so this is the 4 ways an investor will pay.
Love it.
So this is number 1, Ben, and you'll buy the wrong asset. And look, that's a video all on its own about the implications of buying.
We spend hundreds of hours talking about investment grade versus investment stock and all of those fundamental things. So check out the podcast.
It's funny you say that, Ben, because that's another framework. Investment. Let's see if I can do this. Investment grade.
Invest grade. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Look at this under pressure. Investment grade versus investment stock. So that's another one that we talk about in this PDF. So wrong asset. Second one, Ben, is procrastination. Okay. So essentially, how many times have you had that conversation at the barbecue when you think, if only I'd bought it then, if I'd only done it a bit earlier, and time has been your enemy with that particular discussion. So that can actually be the most expensive one of the ways that you pay here. So keep in mind that. Third one is, Ben, you pay too much.
Too much.
Okay, so you're going to pay. And then the 4th way you'll pay is you'll actually pay through getting some advice. Now, clearly there's good advice and there's bad advice. So let's keep the assumption that that is actually good advice. But if we are going through this plan, implement and manage phase, you want to make sure that you identify. Now, we would argue that if you were to pay for advice and correct advice that's devoid of a conflict of interest, has the right experience and also the technical part of their craft, has your agenda front of mind, serving you the right outcome for you, let's assume that that was the basis that you you should,
That's the gold standard, Bryce.
you should be able to avoid paying these other three.
Correct.
That's
So I think that's a really clear framework that we've always believed in terms of, the best people and the most wealthy people in the world have great advisors around them. The best sports people in the world have great advisors around them. They're called coaches. So from our point of view, it really does make sense that if you are going to embark on a wealth creation journey, you have these frameworks. Because even those advisors like us, how do we create these types of frameworks? Because we're advisors. In our day job, that's exactly what we do. And we facilitate these types of solutions to help with the client. So there you go.
So folks, in the comments, perhaps two things. One, can you just let us know where you're actually listening to this? That would be great. And two, give us a like if you are liking how this is all coming together. So we start off with the 5 steps, Ben. In the clarify section, you've got the rule 25, the foundational levers. Then when we go through the latter parts of the 4 steps, with 4 ways a property investor will pay. One of those is through a wrong asset, which means we talk about what's the difference between investment grade and investment stock.
Love it.
The last one I want to talk about, Ben.
Oh, you want one more?
One more.
I thought we were going to tease them to say it's in the...
Well, we are going to give them an opportunity to expand on their knowledge.
Yeah.
But if you think from a global level, so if we take the bigger picture view and have a look at this from the global level, you want to be able to master 4 pillars.
Okay.
And those 4 pillars...
Right, you're sneaking it in there.
The A, B, C, D.
Absolutely.
And essentially, that is like, I guess, if you've got a 4-legged stool, it will topple over, Ben.
A 3-legged stool, yes, but without the 4th leg?
Yeah, so...
Correct.
With a 4th... Sorry, excuse us, folks. It's got 4
you said 3 legs.
But I said if it's missing the 4th leg...
Yes, that's right.
It will topple over if it's meant to be a 4-legged stool.
That's right.
So what I'm saying, Ben, this is a beautiful analogy around the fact that you need to have all 4 of these working for you to be able to master it. So now we have...
What are they? Do you want to... Asset selection, borrowing power, cash flow management, and defence.
This is a reversed segment.
So there we go.
So, folks, we go through that. We show you exactly how they all work together.
Yep.
Probably a bit more succinct than the way we've done it because the Stiggy did it in this one.
Correct. Well, there's a better flow.
A lot better. Yeah. So we're going to go through the 5 steps to building wealth, A, B, C, D, the rule of 25, the 4 foundational levers, the game of property investing.
One of my favourites.
There's a video that you can link to that. What's the difference between investment stock, investment grade? What are the location filters and how do they work together? The money smart system, how does that fit into all this, Ben? We did the 4 ways a property investor will pay, who the industry players are, and how do they fit into this particular diagram. And then, of course, there's some additional resources. So,
Can I?
Yeah, mate. Go.
What I love about this, Bryce, this is the big thing, right? Why would I do it? I mean, okay, I've listened to all the podcasts and I've got all that. That's great. But the links,
yes,
this is where the value is. The value is in we've cut straight through to the different lessons that we've done on the podcast. We've cut through to the videos. We even have a link to get access to the free book.
Yeah.
To the free book. So that's where the gold is in terms of if you're curious about getting... We unpack these in a lot more detail. We've had a lot of fun just now, right? It's a bit of fun for us. But the reality is all of this information is unpacked correctly and a little bit more scientifically as opposed to a little bit of banter that goes on between us two. It's all in there.
We didn't talk about the 4-legged stool in there, so you can be safe to know that we haven't done that. But now, folks, there is a lot of gold in here, but it comes for the... all you have to do is click the link below here, and you get it for free. We'll just email it out to you, folks. So if you go to thepropertycouch.com.au/frameworks with an S on the end.
Not an S there, an S there. Yeah, got it.
Right, well spotted. We're going to send that out to you, folks. So check it out. I mean, it's just a really good reference guide for you to understand how to bring it all together with opportunities for you to go deeper and get to the level of mastery. So, folks, hopefully that's served you. Each and every Thursday we have a podcast. There we go. You should build the context of what that looks like. So it's like that. Each and every week we have a podcast that comes out on Thursday at 3 p.m. So if you want to check that out, you can go to thepropertycouch.com.au. But in the meantime, Make sure.
Why does my head wobble more than your head?
Oh, there's a podcast in that, Ben. There's a podcast in that. But go and get this, folks. Thepropertycouch.com.au/frameworks.